Okay, right. Morning for
Morning.
episode 10 on our off lead. Episode 10. Who would believe it that we managed to get 10 episodes and people are still listening to it? How good is that?
And we haven't actually thrown it.
And we haven't been banned or we haven't fallen out or anything. It's all good. Right. So this morning we've got another special guest. We've got Sarah Fenby. Even though it's got Sarah Hamblin on your.
Has it? Have I not changed that? Oh,
you
my
haven't
God.
changed it because I know you've got married recently. So it's Sarah
congratulations,
Fenby.
Sarah.
Yeah.
Oh, thank you. Oh, it's not that recent. I've just been really lazy and haven't changed my my screen name, obviously. You've just caused a divorce, Stuart.
Yeah, just caused a divorce already. So obviously we've got Sarah here. Sarah is of UK Hoopers fame. So that's Sarah's sort of output, I believe, into the dog sports world. That's your main port call, isn't it, Sarah? Hoopers?
It is now, yeah.
Excellent. Yeah. I first met Sarah, I think, mainly when we did the 2019 IMCA and PAWC tournament in Spain. Sarah was on the PAWC team, and we got together. We sort of chatted there, and then I think we just gradually built up a relationship, working and stuff, and that's what we do. And now we train together and we do camps together and bits and pieces. So it's we do our crossover.
That was a really, really polite way of putting it. As I remember it, though, Stuart, you took the piss out of me while we were sat on the pavement eating pizza.
Well, that's
the first memory I have.
I love it. That was after, yeah. That was it.
You've been pulled out.
Yeah. So we basically, that's how it started, and then we got together and we started training. We do a crossover camp for agility and hoopers.
Stuart's always so polite. Always so polite. I love it.
I try to be.
Get into hoopers, Sarah. I was kind of dragged into it, really, just as it was first coming here into the UK. There was really only a couple of people really driving it here in the UK, and one of them introduced me to it, and yeah, the rest, as they say, is history. Excellent. And did you do agility first? Yes, yeah, right. Yeah, I do, and I still compete in agility, and I do both, possibly equally. Hoopers is obviously my job as well. Right. All my spare weekends I'll be at an agility show, right. Which are few and far between with the amount of Hoopers shows we're running at the minute, but yeah, it's really beginning very to happily off, coexist. Isn't it? Yeah, it's getting a little bit crazy at the minute. It's fantastic, but it is a bit crazy.
Cool.
Excellent.
So so with the Hoopers itself, Sarah, what made you sort of choose? I know it's obviously it was taken off of it. What made you go in that direction?
These things just kind of happen, really. Yeah. I didn't wake up one morning and think, do you know what? I'm going to do that almost 7 days a week now going forwards. Are you that busy? It's full time. I have got my my screen on Zoom at the minute because I don't want you to see the state of my office. It is organized chaos. Why do you think we have these as well? Behind me is thousands of rosettes. I've got everything's packed up this weekend. I'm off to Southampton for a show on Saturday, Bedford for a show on Sunday. Then next weekend we're in Wales, North Wales. That's fabulous. It's crazy. It's absolutely mental. And we've got, as UK Hoopers, we've got so much other stuff as well. We've got online training, we've got online awards, we've got progress awards and achievement awards and all sorts of different bits and bobs that obviously all need administration, plus the show entries we process ourselves. So it is a full-time job. And then and how big is your team? So there's me, myself and I, and then I've got a lovely lady that comes into the office once a week, and she basically runs everything. Then I've got one in charge now. They're amazing. I've recently had one and they're just brilliant, aren't they? Yeah, she is absolutely incredible. So she keeps me in check and basically points me in the right direction every week and lets me go from there. And then I've got some trainers that work with me as well. And then we've obviously got our judges and our help team on the ground who are phenomenal. So it soon starts to get quite an umbrella. But yeah, there's a really, really great team. I'd hate to put a number on it, on how many people actually allow us to survive. But yeah. And do you compete yourself in Hoopers? Yes, yeah, when I can. So obviously when you're running the shows, it's not so easy to focus fully on what you're doing with your dogs. But bless them, they try really hard for me. And yeah, I do get a chance to compete.
Excellent.
I mean, going from an experience going from it to a Hoopers show, the Hoopers shows I feel are it's a completely different I'm going to say completely different environment to agility shows from like the couple that I've
never
been.
I've never been. Is it graded?
Don't listen to a word he's saying, Emma. We take everything very seriously. It's a very serious sport. UK shows are very serious.
Bacon rolls and just chill out.
Yeah, it's a very chilled out atmosphere. It's really cool for the dogs. In respect of everybody respects everybody's space. There's certain rules, isn't there, Sarah, about how many dogs queue in and how the distance from the ring, and all that sort of stuff. So it's really well set up for gaining.
And really, excuse my ignorance, is it graded or how does it work?
Yeah, it is graded. So as Stuart says, we've got a lot of things in place for dog comfort. So 2 meters from the ring fence, 2 meters from each other in the queue. For anybody who competes in agility, which I'm sure is a lot of your viewers and listeners, the main difference with a Hooper show to an agility show is we don't allow dogs to be overhyped in the queue. So we don't allow lunging and barking and screaming and all of that kind of chaos. So that certain dogs thrive on it, certain dogs can't cope with it at all, and then there's everybody in between. So we keep the queue really low, and that just helps the dogs to focus.
Nice
and
chill out zone before they go in. I think the agility community's got a lot to learn from that, really.
Yeah, it's always a bit of a shock for me. My young boy is a little bit of a hothead, and of course I don't notice that in Hoopers so much. I go to an agility show and his brain's exploding, and I'm kind of like, oh my god, I'd forgotten about this. But yeah, and obviously we've always got the UK Hoopers playlist, which is starting to become legendary. Yeah. That's out on one of our Facebook groups at the minute. That's being updated with the help of a lot of our attendees. So good old Spotify playlist will be. Or get some fresh tunes on there.
Oh, you never know, they might play your interview.
I'm sure we cleared the showground pretty quickly.
And what I also like, Sarah, is when I went there, you've got the yellow dog system as well, which I really like, which is basically for sort of reactive or insecure.
That's not been seen for ages, has it? So I remember when I first started my business as a pet dog trainer, I was really, the Yellow Dog UK was like massively quite big, wasn't it? And I don't see it so much anymore. Or
yeah,
maybe
they are still there. They're plugging away in the background. I was really pleased to catch up with them at Crufts. Actually, they'd got a little stall at Crufts, and they've been really great with us when we first started out, sending us yellow ribbons for leads and lots of literature. And
they did
I think you're right.
As well,
yeah, it's not in the public face enough. I don't think it is as obvious as it should be. And just Crufts obviously was recently, and I do a stint on Discover Dogs, and we're seeing more and more children ask to touch the dogs and things like that. So I think public awareness is increasing, but tiny increments. It needs a good big slap in the face, in my opinion.
Yeah, I agree. Maybe that's something that we can talk about next time, Stuart, because I definitely, and I think also what happened was that a couple of people jumped on the bandwagon and didn't do it as well.
Yeah, so and that's the thing, and it's a fine line between, I've heard people say, oh, you've got a reactive dog, take it to Hoopers, you'll be all right there. Well, actually maybe not. Like, every dog is different, and reactivity has many different forms, and obviously we can't have outwardly aggressive dogs or anybody that's going to cause a problem. But if your dog is just a little bit insecure or just needs a little bit of space or a little bit of time or a little bit of patience, then yeah, absolutely, bring them along. We'll do whatever we can do to make that dog happy and comfortable. And other sports don't necessarily have the facilities to do that. They're long established, or the environment's different and whatever, but we can, and we're just starting out. And to answer your earlier question, Emma, about grades, yes, we are graded, but because we're so new, we've not long opened up grade 3. So eventually,
it's going to take a similar system.
Yeah, But kind of now's the time that we can put these things in place. We can get the things in place for the yellow dogs and things like that, and hopefully carry them forwards forevermore, which is a fantastic advantage that we've got on other sports who are already so well established and so set in their ways. It'd be very hard for them to make huge changes.
I think sometimes I think people use almost the yellow dog thing as an excuse or something, you know. I think people think of yellow dogs as being aggressive dogs. Steer clear of that dog because it's aggressive, it's got a yellow lead on, whereas that's not necessarily the case.
I also think it's it's okay in the dog world, so in dog sports people do recognize it, but a lot of people, when I had Beth's yellow coat, she hated eye contact. And a lot of people were like, oh, what do you mean you need space? And you could feel them gravitating towards you, you know. It means fuck off. I couldn't say that, obviously. And I went one step further and I actually got her a yellow muzzle, which I think it came from China or something. And it said, I need space on it. It was just one of those little, and it was a cloth muzzle. That worked so much better because people were like, whoa, okay.
Whoa.
Yeah, exactly, which is bizarre, really. You know, you can read. So yeah. It kind of also, when you were saying, Sarah, about, you know, that you welcome, you know, some reactivity to try and get it calmer, and that some dogs, you know, are just not suitable. I used to do sports massage for dogs and horses. The only reason I don't practice it now really is because I didn't feel that I could keep my CPD up. And I like hoopers, but I have this grey area going on in my brain. So please excuse my ignorance, but also there's no really good way. So I'm just going to be blunt, okay? I don't feel that some dogs that have injuries or have come back from an injury are going to benefit any better from doing hoopers than they would agility. All we've done is taken the impact out, and some of the way that they drive round through the hoops is still like really fast and really powerful. And so how does that fit with you from a recovery from injury point of view?
Yeah, I completely agree with you, Emma. There's much less impact in hoopers than there is in agility. You know yourself, if you've got a slightly gammy knee, for example, you've overstretched something or tweaked something or just overdone the weekend dancing on the tables or whatever it was, you can probably run down the garden to retrieve your mobile phone out the puppy's mouth. However, running up the stairs and back down for something would obviously be a little bit more uncomfortable, and it's kind of the equivalent of it, really. Hoopers isn't for everybody. It's not, and I do get really annoyed.
I don't think agility is either.
No,
sorry.
no.
I was going to jump in after that. I think agility's got a little bit to answer to on that as well.
Exactly that.
Yeah, I do. I get really, really knocked when I see people putting on Facebook, especially, but anywhere, that hoopers is a sport for all. It's for all ages, all dogs, all abilities, all handlers, all everything. No, it is not. It is a sport, plain and simple.
And that's where we have the problem with agility, isn't it? Is because it's not registered as a sport. You know, you can't bring in these things. So I actually shut my eyes sometimes when I'm watching dogs in the ring at agility, and I'm like, there's no way that dog should be in the ring. So I come from the horse world, and it would be up to the judge, and a judge would definitely chuck out a lame horse. You would just not have and you see these lame dogs, and I think we're reactive as well. So obviously the Kennel Club, I think they went through this stage of reacting. So somebody would say something and they would react, and there was so many changes going through. But why can't our judges, and potentially in hoopers as well, and this is probably completely off piece, not say, sorry, your dog's lame, you need to leave the ring, without getting some sort of abuse?
Yeah, absolutely. And UK Hoopers also run a national judging program, and this is something that I love our judges to be empowered to say things like that. And I myself have stopped people in their run and said, I'm sorry, your dog isn't sound. get them checked out or whatever. And actually I had that exact scenario, and somebody broke down in floods of tears and said, oh my God, thank you so much. I got a niggling doubt, but I'd already entered. And we do, don't we? We've put so much, we want to go camping for the weekend and see our friends and have a barbecue and all of that. And you're like, oh, the dog will tell me if it's lame, and they don't always.
They just keep going, don't they?
And of course, when you're running, you can't necessarily see them. And as a judge, I just saw something I really didn't like. And she stopped and she thanked me, and she was like, no, thank you so much for not even let me finish the run.
And I'm sure there are loads in the agility world that would do that, but I also have seen, I think that maybe some, not all, but maybe some judges would be like, kind of feel awkward.
Oh, absolutely. Oh my God, judges get roasted for judging a dog walk. Why are they going to stop? Like, no, it's I completely understand why judges would second guess, or certainly think twice about saying something. But you know, obviously in hoopers we do get a lot of retired agility dogs that handlers don't want them jumping anymore, but they're still fit, you know, they've still got years left in them.
And I would have done that decision with Herbie. So Herbie went into went into COVID on the back of phenomenal wins at Crufts with Stacey. I want to say he was 9 at the start of the pandemic. And he just, like, Stacey had him in teams and pairs and everything, and he had some phenomenal successes. When it became apparent that we weren't coming out of the pandemic, he'd had a lump. I'd had it biopsied. It was clear, but it was definitely getting bigger, and it was just sitting underneath his leg. So I had it removed. I couldn't get him back to agility fit. So even on micro at home, just over for, because the muscles just got lazy, even in us, didn't they?
Yeah.
And he was measuring. So for those that don't know, measuring isn't necessarily caused by an injury. So some dogs will just measure because they lack confidence and in their stride pattern and everything else. And that's what started to happen with Herbie. You could see him, like, every single little micro jump, I can still do this, I can still do this. And so he never came out of
don't worry about it.
Done it again. He never came out and competed again, you know, as so many of our agility dogs didn't. And obviously, you know, we couldn't do hoopers or anything either, so he retired. And I was glad that he went out at the top of agility. I've got that to thank. But what kinds, I don't know whether you can do this off the top of your heads, but say for instance a dog was, I don't know, suffering from dysplasia, okay, elbow and hip dysplasia, would you say a high grade dysplasia dog should be doing hoopers?
I certainly would not say anything on that subject. I would say get your vet consent, because hoopers isn't for all dogs. It isn't. It is. No. That's what I was saying. It is a sport at the end of the day. And would you take your high grade dysplasia dog and run it up and down the beach in deep sand chasing a ball? No. Exactly that. Exactly that. You know, at the end of the day, there is a physical element to it. It is a sport. It's lower impact than flyball or agility or a lot of the other sports, but it is a sport. And you know,
I mean, don't get me wrong, we run some hoopers classes, and the trainer's lovely, and there are some retired agility dogs. There are dogs that, you know, that wouldn't do agility, and they manage fine, and they absolutely manage fine.
Yeah, and that's the difference between hoopers and agility is so vast, you know, and running in a straight line or a curve versus jumping 60 centimeters or whatever. You know, that is quite vast. I think especially with the large dogs, more so, you know, the smalls, if they're not capable of jumping sort of micro any size jumps, then you know, it's, I don't want to say it's not too dissimilar going through a hoop, because obviously it isn't a jump, but for the difference between leaping something potentially bigger than them or running on the flat is vast.
Would have caped. definitely Herbie would have coped and probably loved it, you know.
Yeah,
definitely.
and that's the thing, you know, their brains often aren't ready for retirement.
No.
And a lot of the time, you know, these dogs, I'm going to pick on collies because I love picking on collies. They won't tell you that they're ready to retire. They will just keep going. I don't
think any dog. So I've said this time and time again, I do a lot of behaviour work. And if I suddenly have somebody say to me, it's a new behaviour, whatever that behaviour is, you need to take your dog to the vet.
Yeah.
Why would I do that? Because your dog is trying to tell you something. And I'm a great advocate in, you know, listening to your dog. Oh, my dog always goes and wheezes and goes and runs out. And I think my clients hate me sometimes. So I'm like, just go and get him checked. Just go and get him checked. Just, you know, I don't want to battle with why this dog isn't going through the weaves. There's something going wrong. You know, everything was fine. Go and get it checked. Go and get it checked. Go and get it checked. You know.
Yeah, I'm a bit like that with my clients. If there's an issue, my first question is, when was the last time they had a physio? When was the last time, you know, before you even go anywhere else? Yes, it looks like a behavior issue, but you know, if they've been doing weaves for years and then all of a sudden you have a session where they won't hit a weave entry time after time after time, it's not a training issue.
No,
it's got to be a physical issue.
With Kippy, I've had the same with Kippy, and mine's turned out to be claws. So I had loads going on at home, and I got his claws cut. I generally trim their claws every 2 weeks. And I hadn't, and then I competed him on the carpet in the tryouts. I think it actually really hurt him. I've been trimming him back every couple of days, and he's still grumbling at me. But but again, you know, that came the first thing that showed me. And contacts, that's the other thing, isn't it? You know, like my dog's suddenly jumping its contacts. Go and get it checked. Yeah,
exactly. Especially if it's a dog that's been doing it successfully for so long, and then all of a sudden they're not doing it. That's an issue.
Yeah, you know, I agree. Dogs are really, really good and astute at telling us something. We are not but probably, I don't even want to put a percentage of, but there's a lot of people that won't listen.
And I also
that's
think
our only job.
And I also think that dogs,
listen to what the dog's bloody telling you.
And I also think that dogs, by the time the dog is showing you, it's too late anyway, because the dogs are so stoic. If they're showing you, then it bloody hurts.
Yeah, I mean, I'll argue this one because I've got 4 Sholos, but they're like, mummy, it's broken. Yeah, you're fine. Come on, crack on, princess.
Really sad case. And Amanda, my trainer, I know she won't. I've not asked her permission, but I know she won't mind me sharing this. I am likely to cry. Her Banjo. He was stunning, absolutely stunning. Just really starting. This was like pre-pandemic. Just really starting to establish himself as a beginner dog. And she qualified him for Discover Dogs, and suddenly I noticed he'd lost a bit of weight, and she set him up in the middle in training.
You started the bloody subject.
I know.
Did we put a mascara warning on this one?
You know, I'm bloody useless, I tell you. I blame the hormones. She set him up in the middle, and he didn't go. And I'm like, something wrong with your dog? And she's like, yeah. And she was fully on board. I said, just pop him over. You know, we had just had the jumps on medium. He was a large dog. Just pop him over and let's just see. Wasn't lame. Definitely wasn't lame. But, you know, he's not himself, Amanda. He's really not himself. And she said, yeah, no, I agree. She got him checked. Didn't find anything. Qualified him for Discover Dogs. Started leaping his contact, and I'm like, and this dog was so wonderful to train, so wonderful. And I said, there's something wrong. Anyway, she took him to Discover Dogs, and that was his, I think it was his last competition. He died of a trauma. He had a mass inside, and he was trying to tell her from that day that he gave us that middle and wouldn't take that position. We knew that there was something wrong.
Yeah,
it was awful. Sorry.
That's all right.
but it, you know, I think it's
an unusual podcast for us. It goes up and down. It's all over the place.
Stuart's just getting the tissues out.
You didn't tell me it was going to be all emotion. I wasn't prepared for this.
I know. But you know, it's so important. I would imagine bringing it back round to hoopers. I would say that from Hooper's trainers' point of view, it's even more. Do you get the majority of older dogs an inch dog, or do you get people that want to just do it anyway?
Yeah, I mean, Hooper's has got a reputation for being great for broken agility dogs or retired agility dogs, and actually, it's not true. That reputation tends to come from the people that don't do Hoopers. So we have got everything. We've got dogs competing in nursery. Well, not competing because you don't compete in nursery, but we've got young dogs coming through that are currently in nursery, ready to start competing. We've got dogs of all shapes and sizes. So some people that maybe would have liked to have done agility but don't feel that their dog is particularly suited to jumping, or there may be a little bit less driven, shall we say, and maybe agility is hard, you know, it is hard. It takes a lot of commitment. 12 weaves, flipping heck, I'd rather do 4, thank you.
Yeah, and I run small dogs, and sometimes I think some of those small dogs that are,
they can get overwhelmed quite easily.
It's not even that. They're jumping something that's double their size.
Oh yeah, absolutely, absolutely. So we get a lot of those dogs, and we get a lot of handlers who just prefer a quieter life. And you know, like Stuart said before, the atmosphere at our shows is slightly different, and we have such an amazing time. I'm so excited for summer. I cannot wait to get the caravan back out. And people come for the social, a lot of it. We've got people that maybe come and enter a couple of runs a day. You know, we've got a lot of handlers that have maybe seen better days as well. And
can you say that, Sarah?
I'm not going to mention any names. But there are quite a few a couple of guys actually that normally compete in a pairs team, and I'm going to get the numbers wrong, and they're not going to forgive me for that. The combined age of the 2 handlers and the 2 dogs is about 170 years old.
Oh, that's amazing.
Yeah, you try and beat them. You try and beat them.
Yeah. And I don't want to ask how old they are, but I would imagine that's really good for their brains as well, because we're all competitive, and that keeps that competitive brain going, doesn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. And do you know what? These were the guys that came out to training every week that we possibly could through lockdown. And you know, when you look and you think, what am I doing with my life? And then you look and see, it's like, oh, okay, yeah, that's fine. Carry on, that's fine. Because if a couple of, or it's not even a couple, if a handful of retired ladies want to come out and the only time they've left the house that week through lockdown is to come and work with their dogs.
I'm due to retire. No, I'm
not. Yeah, I'm aiming to by next year, but then I decided dog sports was the future.
I remember I taught this lady, and she suddenly came to me, and I was like pushing. There was 3 or 4 that had come from another club, and I was pushing them all for the blinds, and I said to her, like, do not go for the blind. And she's like, I'm gonna get there. Oh my god. And she fell over, and I'm like, and I was mortified, and she was fine. She was absolutely fine. I'm like, why did you do it? And she's like, why should I be any different to anyone else? Because you're 80.
Yeah.
So I wanted to look after
the paperwork in.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't fill any paperwork. No.
Yeah, I tell that to all my guys. I'm like, for God's sake, don't do anything that creates paperwork. Just honestly. But of course, you know, the distance handling goes with Hoopers. You get extra points for it. So if handlers are looking for a slower life, then they can get around the courses much more comfortably than they perhaps can in other sports. And
do you think there's a stigma?
Yeah.
For some agility people. Yeah. Would think, oh, it's a downward step.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, I'm going to say from an agility trainer's point of view, that I also train Hoopers as well. So Sarah, I took the instructor's course with Sarah, so to become a Hooper, and I think that a lot of people don't see how much dog training there actually is in Hoopers.
Yeah, and you're talking to somebody that doesn't, because I have somebody that trains Paige, and she trains our Hoopers.
Yeah,
so I don't.
The actual dogs, like Sarah's just touching in on the distance handling point of view, to get your dog to execute a certain skills, whether that be going round barrels, through hoops, turning left, turning right, whatever it is, from 30 meters away from one spot at speed, as well, this is not, we're not talking, I'm training Skin through it at the moment because he's 9 this year. So I've started starting to integrate him into hoopers as well. Not necessarily because he was retiring, but because I started training it. And I thought it'd be good for him to do anyway. Because he's, he likes to work and do things, something different.
Well, and I think if you're training anything, it keeps your hand in as well, doesn't it?
But to train him to run as fast as he does and still execute what I'm asking him to do when I'm standing still, it's a completely different ball game for me. And it also it helps me training from an agility point of view as well.
So is it timed? How's the class judged?
Yeah, absolutely, it's timed. So UK Hoopers, we use a 3-element scoring system. So when you enter the ring, you've got 100 points. Your faults are deducted, if there are any. Your faults are deducted from that 100. Your time is deducted from that 100, and any handling points that you earn are added back on. So it's these 3 things that make up the overall score, and what you're left with is your finishing score, and the highest one wins. So what that means is if you've got a slightly steadier, clear, round kind of dog, that everybody loves a steady, clear dog, and you're concerned that you wouldn't touch the super fast dogs on speed, you can put the extra handling elements in and earn those points that offsets the speed of another dog.
I like it. You've really given it a lot of thought. It's really great.
You can, it's kind of, everybody works it from a slightly different angle for what suits them and their dog and what they want to get out of it. But ultimately, your finishing score is also your progression points. So if you start with 100, you run in 20 seconds and it was a clear round and you didn't get any handling points, you'd have a finishing score of 80. Pretty good score. That'd probably see you somewhere in the ribbons-ish. That 80 points then also goes through to your progression points for grading up. So that's 80 towards your first 1,200 points to go to grade 2.
Wow.
That's so amazing. Every time, you never need to win a class to grade up.
The heights, you still judge different heights against each other?
Yeah, so they all run together because obviously we don't need to move poles around. So so they all just run. And that's the other thing. Agility people are like, they're stood there going, they've got their ticket. But when do I run? Whenever just, it's your class. Go and run. As soon as we're at your running colour, just run. But yes, the awards are usually split for small, large, and veterans.
Wow. I'm not promising anything this year because I've got a few personal bits coming on, but definitely I am going to commit to getting along to a Hoopers show.
Yeah, come and have a look.
Drag me along and we'll have pizza and wine.
Yeah, sounds like a plan.
Project. Sounds like a standard UK Hoopers show to me, actually.
Yeah.
Pizza and wine.
How do people get in contact with you, Sarah?
So you can find us at ukhoopers.com. If you're looking for shows, then we've got our own processor. Everything is all online at hoopers.online. So ukhoopers.com for everything UK Hoopers. And if you're looking for the show diary and entries, it's hoopers.online.
Perfect. Perhaps, Stuart, when you pop the thing in, you can stick it in the comments
stick a
as
few
well.
Links in the comments. Yeah, absolutely. Right, that's cool. So
can I just start just one? We like a finishing sentence. Shut up, Stuart. No, I'm joking. What would you say to anyone with an older dog or a dog recovering from injury that wants to try out Hoopers? What should they do?
Definitely think about it. Have a look. There are so many videos online. UK Hoopers has got the Everything Hoopers group on Facebook. You can see on there a lot of videos of dogs running. Have a look and really think about whether that sort of activity is suitable for your dog. If you think it is, fantastic. Pop along, see your vet, see your rehab specialist or whoever you might be working with, and just double check, especially if there's old injuries or anything, any sort of diagnosis. It is always worth that few quid just making sure that they're going to be happy and comfortable, and yet when they are happy days, come and get involved and join in the fun, and hopefully we'll see you in a field somewhere.
I'd love to meet you. I'd love to meet you in person. It's been a pleasure, Stuart.
Yeah, it's been cool.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you very much for joining us.
Stuart, I'll let you.
Sorry?
You can close us off now.
I can speak now. I can speak now. Yeah, I would just obviously like to say thank you to Sarah for joining us on this
thanks,
episode
Sarah.
10. So we've done 10 episodes, and it's always good we really enjoy having special guests on, especially when they've got a different sort of niche or a different level to what we're trying to do. So it's always good, and obviously it's been a pleasure this morning. So,
really
I'd like to say
has.
thank you very much,
you.
and
Thank you, guys.
hopefully we'll see you all soon.
Yeah, see you later. Bye.
See you later.
Take care.